Bonsoir, good evening. Je m'appelle Anne Delorme, je coordonne le comité québécois Femmes et Développement de la COSI, l'Association québécoise des organismes de coopération internationale. Il me fait grand plaisir de vous souhaiter la bienvenue à cette importante conférence intitulée « Politique étrangère féministe, défis et opportunités à l'échelle internationale ». Cette conférence est organisée par un groupe d'organismes de la société civile. Peut-être qu'on va voir les logos sous peu, qui est en amont de la première rencontre de 30 femmes ministres des Affaires étrangères qui aura lieu cette fin de semaine à Montréal. Nous sommes privilégiés d'avoir l'opportunité d'écouter un dialogue entre l'honorable Karina Gould ainsi que 3 militantes féministes, Razia Sultana du Bangladesh, Théo Soa du Ghana et Anielle Franco du Brésil. Notre objectif collectif est de souligner l'importance des politiques étrangères féministes, notamment pour la défense des droits des femmes. De plus, nous souhaitons influencer l'agenda de la rencontre des femmes ministres des Affaires étrangères afin qu'elles prennent des engagements concrets pour soutenir et protéger les femmes défenseurs des droits humains. Car leur contribution au débat public et à la construction de sociétés justes et égalitaires doit être célébrée, reconnue et soutenue par les États. Il me fait maintenant plaisir d'inviter la représentante de l'Université de Montréal, notre partenaire incontournable de la conférence de ce soir, pour le mot d'ouverture. Veuillez accueillir Madame Marie-Joëlle Zahar, directrice du réseau de recherche sur les opérations de paix pour le Centre d'études et de recherche internationale.
Alors, d'abord, un grand merci à Anne. Et je vous assure que si vous allez entendre des échos de ce qu'elle vient de vous dire, c'est parce que nous ne nous sommes pas parlé à l'avance, mais nous travaillons vraiment dans le même sens. Donc, Madame la ministre, Mesdames les panélistes, chers partenaires des associations de la société civile, professeurs et étudiants, Mesdames, Messieurs, bienvenue à l'Université de Montréal. Donc, comme Anne vous l'a dit, je m'appelle Marie-Joëlle Zahar et je suis non seulement directrice de recherche du réseau des opérations de paix, mais je suis également professeure au département de sciences politiques. Et il me fait plaisir de vous accueillir en mon nom et au nom de l'université, dans l'université qui se dit l'Université de Montréal et du monde. Alors, si nous nous décrivons en ces termes-là, ce n'est pas seulement pour souligner l'excellence universitaire et académique des chercheurs et des étudiants de l'Université de Montréal, parce que si nous sommes très fiers de ces réalisations, nous sommes encore plus fiers de notre engagement à sortir de nos murs, à jeter des ponts entre le savoir universitaire et la société dans laquelle nous évoluons, qu'il s'agisse bien sûr du plan local, provincial, national ou international. L'Université de Montréal, c'est avant toute chose des professeurs et des étudiants et étudiantes qui cherchent non seulement à mieux comprendre le monde, mais également à se doter d'outils pour agir dans et sur le monde. À cet égard, nous œuvrons donc dans la même perspective que nos collègues de la COSI et les autres organisations de la société civile avec lesquelles nous avons le plaisir de collaborer ce soir. Ensemble, notre action n'est que plus complémentaire et efficace. Et notre mission reflète également, nous l'espérons et nous le souhaitons, les objectifs de la rencontre des femmes ministres des Affaires étrangères qui aura lieu cette fin de semaine au centre-ville de Montréal et qui, comme Anne l'a dit, est la toile de fond de notre événement. La pleine participation des femmes à la vie politique, économique et sociale de nos États et de nos sociétés est le credo qui nous rassemble ici pour écouter des panélistes au parcours inspirant qui nous livreront à la fois témoignages et réflexions. Sans vouloir présumer du contenu de leurs interventions, je peux toutefois avancer que la pleine participation des femmes est un objectif qui est encore malheureusement loin d'être atteint à l'échelle internationale. Vous avez probablement vu le déroulé des femmes activistes qui sont en danger ou qui ont été emprisonnées dans le cadre de leur action. Alors, ce n'est qu'un petit exemple du nombre de femmes qui luttent et qui souvent payent le prix fort pour leur lutte. J'ai personnellement eu l'opportunité d'observer le chemin que nous avons parcouru, mais aussi d'apprécier le chemin qui nous reste à parcourir. Lorsque j'ai pris congé de l'université il y a de cela 5 ans, pour me joindre à une équipe d'appui à la médiation, le Standby Team of Mediation Experts aux Nations Unies. Je me suis jointe à l'équipe à titre d'experte sur les questions de partage de pouvoir et de résolution des conflits. Mais à force de me retrouver impliquée dans des processus de paix, en Syrie, en Libye, au Yémen, au Mali, en Centrafrique, où j'étais l'une des rares femmes dans les forums et où les perspectives de genre étaient tout simplement absentes, je suis sortie de mon expérience onusienne activiste. Depuis mon retour à l'université, tant mes recherches que mes engagements pratiques visent désormais à réfléchir aux modalités d'inclusion des femmes et des acteurs de la société civile dans ces forums où se décide souvent le futur de nos États et de nos sociétés. L'inclusion et la pleine participation des femmes n'est pas une question de principe et d'égalité simplement. C'est aussi un impératif guidé par la nécessité de reconnaître le travail que ces dernières font à la base pour maintenir le tissu social, renforcer la résilience des communautés et œuvrer à la résolution non violente des conflits. Dans le cas des sociétés que je connais le mieux, celles où j'ai œuvré, elles travaillent au dialogue, à la déradicalisation, à la diminution de la violence, au risque de leur vie, et en payant parfois, comme l'a fait la sœur de notre panéliste, la regrettée conseillère municipale de Rio de Janeiro, Marielle Franco, le prix suprême pour leur engagement. Il nous incombe donc, nous qui avons accès à des forums comme celui-ci, de nous faire les porte-paroles de cette réalité, de porter témoignage afin que le rôle central que les femmes jouent soit enfin reconnu, apprécié et célébré. Sur ce, je passe à nouveau la parole à Anne Delorme et je vous souhaite, au nom de l'Université de Montréal, de riches et productifs échanges. Merci.
Merci, Marie-Joëlle. C'est le Canada et l'Union européenne qui sont hôtes de la réunion des femmes ministres des Affaires étrangères. It is thus with great pleasure that I invite to the stage Her Excellency Ambassador Edita Erda, who is Managing Director for the Americas for the European External Action of the European Union.
Good afternoon, Madam Minister, dear colleagues, dear friends. Thank you very much for inviting us, representatives of European Union, to your meeting today. I think it's a very good example of what the women can do together. We are gathering one day before the 2 days meeting of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs from the world, ladies, Ministers of Foreign Affairs, who will come to Montreal, and it will be the first such kind of meeting. And we are very proud that High Representative Federica Mogherini and Minister Freeland decided to organize such an event only a few days before the General Assembly in New York. I think it will be a very good opportunity not only to meet and to speak about women's rights, but also about foreign policy, to see what the women could push forward. And being Minister of Foreign Affairs, it's always representing the country abroad. Being Minister of Foreign Affairs of the European Union, meaning High Representative, means represent 28 countries of European Union, where also we have some ministers, ladies, and they will gather here and they will not talk only about the issues which we talk always in all the big conferences, but also about that what we can do together, where we really can make a difference, how we can foster and bring forward also the multilateral policies. You know that European Union and gender equality and women empowerment is a core value for us, and one of our key fundamentals of our diplomacy, of our general policies, being it foreign policy, development policy, trade, also security policy. And it is both an objective and a precondition to realize our shared global ambition, such as, for example, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, or being it Women, Peace and Security agenda at the UN. This work goes hand in hand with the key issues and objectives of our own European Union global strategy of foreign and security policy, and also of the European Consensus on Development. Ending sexual and gender balanced violence, empowering girls and women is sine qua non to build more peaceful and prosperous, inclusive and equitable societies. And I have to say that civil societies, and in particular women organizations, are our very valued and critical partners and allies in all our efforts, being it European Union, but being it countries of European Union and the member states. The European Union and its member states work for full implementation of all UN Security Council resolution on women, peace and security. And of course, European Union is by far the number one, if I can say it so, investor in gender equality, women's empowerment around the world. Furthermore, the systemic integration of gender perspective in all our policy areas, being it analysis, being it diplomacy, being it planning, conduct and evaluation of activities, it remains a key priority for the European Union. And gender balance and gender mainstreaming are both very critical to achievement of gender equality, and we are very much aware about it. We are working on women, peace and security, both at home and abroad, being it in conflict-affected areas, but also in the stable situations and stable countries. And the EU has been implementing its own regional framework for women, peace and security, completing in 18 EU member states action plans. And we will continue to support also our partner countries in realizing their commitments on women, peace and security. Let me mention maybe two examples among many of our work, for example, in Afghanistan. The first of our project is called Women Building Peace, promoting the role of Afghan women in peace and security process. This is about prevention of gender-based violence. Through these projects contributes European Union to build sustainable peace and gender-sensitive conflict resolution mechanism within Afghan National Action Plan of the Resolution 1325. It aims to increase women participation in conflict resolution mechanism in order to demonstrate a very positive impact of women involvement in the conflict's resolution. And also it reinforces women's protection from violence by strengthening the referral system of enhancing the stability, accountability, legitimacy of the formal justice system. And I think this is very important for everybody over there. The second project is called Building Peace Through Support for Women's Access to Service and Decision Makers in Jabalat in Afghanistan. It also supports local and national peace processes and encourages peaceful conflict resolution through the promotion of the women's basic rights, but also participation in decision-making and the grassroots level. Community work here is a key issue to ensure the women's participation in community decision-making. And to this end, it contributes to strengthen the ties between the Afghan local, provincial, and national government to implement the respective resolution of United Nations. Other very important example of that what European Union foreign policy does in the gender issue and women issues and girls issues is so-called Spotlight Initiative. We started it 1 year ago in Latin America. We picked up 5 Latin American countries, and we will present the first achievements of supporting local communities and protecting the women from the violence at the General Assembly in New York, the 27th of September now. And I think it will be a very good example of that, what we can do together. And also we will invite more countries to contribute to all these programs. The women, peace and security had been identified as a new priority for European Union in the cooperation and in strategic partnership with United Nations on peace operations and crisis management. And the EU will drive forward multilateral actions, including the strong EU-UN action, and maintain close partnership with like-minded stakeholders, including civil societies. During the last year, we had formalized our partnership and cooperation with United Nations on women, peace and security. We also formalized the relation with NATO and G7. And let me mention then that in the G7, there is, of course, a very good example, and this is the initiative of Canada as a G7 chair to promote each one of us members of G7 a pilot country for joint implementation of the Women, Peace and Security agenda. And European Union have selected Bosnia and Herzegovina as a target country, and there are two main reasons why exactly Bosnia and Herzegovina. First, it is a post-conflict country in transformation in the phase of recovery and reconciliation, and Bosnia and Herzegovina developed own first national action program on women, peace and security already in 2010, and the implementation of the second was about to be completed beginning this year, end of last year. The establishment of robust EU participation and help in specific areas is something what can improve and see the future of already identified and broadly agreed programs. Let me say that European Union remains a very reliable partner and principled partner and leader on the global stage, and we are fully committed to strengthen the multilateral rule-based order to promote effective multilateralism and reinforce and reform the UN system. We are approaching the 20th anniversary of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda in 2020, and we have to take a look at the state of implementation of it. And it will be, I think, a very positive momentum to see all the positive achievements which are there. Into practice and reality, we would like to see the women, girls, men and boys, and this is important to underline this, before, during and after crisis conflicts, being together and working together. And I have to say that the European Union remains for the front of all these achievements and actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Entrons maintenant au cœur des enjeux avec nos importants invités. Permettez-moi d'introduire Madame Jennifer Ditchburn et d'inviter à tous nos panélistes de venir sur l'estrade. Jennifer Ditchburn est rédactrice en chef d'Options politiques, le magazine de l'Institut de recherche en politique publique. C'est Madame Ditchburn qui sera l'animatrice du panel ce soir. Donc, on va leur donner un moment pour prendre leur place. Et c'est Madame Ditchburn qui va faire les introductions.
Merci. Je vais m'asseoir dans un instant, mais merci d'abord, Anne, pour l'introduction. Je suis très contente d'être parmi vous ce soir. Je veux vous dire d'abord que notre discussion va se faire en anglais pour permettre un bon dialogue avec nos amis de l'étranger. Mais je prendrai vos questions en français avec plaisir à la fin de la discussion, dans une période de questions. And I'm very happy to be with you tonight, and I thank the Nobel Women's Initiative for calling me and asking me to moderate this discussion, and I feel very humble among the women that are up on stage. I'm not an expert in feminist foreign policy. I want to learn more about it, so curiosity is driving my questions tonight. And when I was preparing for this event, I was thinking about where I was 23 years ago. I was a student at Concordia. Are there lots of students here in the room? Yeah, I'm guessing that there are. So 23 years ago, I was a student at Concordia, and I was working at the student newspaper, and the co-editor of the student newspaper and I had this crazy idea. We said, what if we raised money and we went to cover the UN Women's Conference in Beijing? So we actually raised the money, and we went to cover the conference for the student newspaper in Concordia. Doesn't that sound kind of crazy? And I was so young at the time that I don't think I really realized how pivotal a moment that conference was in 1995. I think there's probably some women in the room that remember that. At the time, it was one of the first events where women's NGOs from around the world came together in China. It was the first time that probably the Chinese authorities had ever seen an LGBTQ tent at any event on their soil. It was very controversial at the time. And it's also when we really started talking globally about women's rights being human rights. And I think it started a lot of the discussions that we're going to be talking about today. But also, things have really evolved since 1995. I think we can all agree. Just as a side note, my classmate from 1995 is now Canada's ambassador to Tunisia, and she has her 2 children with her in Tunisia. In 1995, you couldn't really be head of a Canadian mission with children. So now we've come this far, not far enough, but we're talking about feminist foreign policy and a whole-scale change in how we view our approach to foreign policy. So, I mean, I think that it's a pretty cool discussion. So let me introduce the panelists before I sit down. You have the long version of your bios, so I'm just going to give you their titles. Theo Sowa is the CEO of the African Women's Development Fund, and she's based in Ghana. Karina Gould is Canada's Minister for Democratic Institutions. Anielle Franco da Silva is an educator and a human rights activist based in Rio. And Razia Sultana is the founder of Rohingya Women's Welfare, and she's based now in Bangladesh. So let's give them a warm welcome. Yeah, so, hello? Does it? Yeah, okay. So I had a particular order of questions, but I'm sort of throwing that into the air right now because we had a bit of news today in Ottawa, which is a few hours ago, the House of Commons unanimously passed a resolution to declare the crisis in Myanmar a genocide, and also to call on the military leaders in Myanmar to be held accountable for the systemic abuses that are occurring in that country. And so I salute you for the work that you're doing. But I have a large question that applies to feminist foreign policy, which is what we're here to talk to. In a case of such a horrific tragedy that's unfolding in your country, how can feminist foreign policy work there in a practical sense? How could it be applied? You have a microphone there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First, I have to thank the Canada. You did it. About the, yes, this is a very tragic moment for the Rohingya nation. They faced a horrible thing. But to think about the situation is not only happening in the Rakhine state, in the other part of the Myanmar and other part of the world is happening. So now we have to speak out about the women issue. Because women are facing this kind of atrocity. Is anything happen, first they're targeting the woman sexually or gender-wise. And there is no trial for them. This is not a part of genocide. This is genocide. Women issue is individually, because when you attack a woman, every minute you destroy a woman, what I can say, whole thing you destroyed this one. So this is a crime. It needs to be stopped, and we women, we feminists, we have to be argue with about the law. This says there should be must a law in conflicts. If anyone attack women, they have to give the answer. So
So a country, let's take a country like Canada or other countries that are talking about feminist foreign policy like Sweden. What can we do? How can our foreign policy here in Canada help women who are being raped and put into sexual slavery? How can we help through our foreign policy?
First, you have to encourage about the human rights defender. Human rights defender is the media about the community. If you give the information about the community base, that you can sort out the what they need. So first, what the human defender, we just like we are activists, we want to work for women issue. So we need to be safe. We need first we secure, then we can ask for help. So this is a one kind that we are asking about the security because as a human rights defender, what I am facing. Before I am very lively. I'm going to camp and I'm collecting. I giving the training also women, and now I'm so afraid to go over there because I feel I'm not safe, and I cannot encourage the other women to come in as a human right about the working with me. Because I'm not secure, so how can I be? And there's another point. If I'm not there, what we will else to do with our community? First, ensure the women safety, so we can empower the women and we can bring the leadership about the women.
Speaking of the security of human rights defenders, Anielle, maybe talk to us a little bit about your sister, your late sister, who was a human rights defender.
Yeah.
Tell us about her, what she was doing.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Marielle, she was a political, a councilwoman, and she was killed March 14 this year. And we grew up in the slums in Rio, so we studied in public schools. We went to different kinds of public schools, and we lived in the slums. We called Maré. It's called Complexo da Maré. It's one of the biggest slums we have in Rio de Janeiro. And she was just different. She loved to do politics. Like, since she was a teenager, she used to stand up like one. And when she turned 18, she entered a university with a scholarship and studied political science. And after that day, since that day, she was just showing how political she was. And she was elected with 46,000 votes. It was like a huge number. No one was expecting that. But Marielle was just that kind of Brazilian that speaks for whatever she believes. So if she would root for the black women, that was her main cause, she would just say. And she just stayed for 1 year working as a politician, and they killed her with 4 shots in the head. Actually, the car was hit by 19 shots. Yeah, but only on her head, only on her face. But she was doing a great job. She was always saying and standing up for human rights, for the women. She was always speaking out for many people. And my mom used to say that they should have realized that something would come for her, because it was always her. The political part, I always send Marielle to talk, to speak, to lecture, any place. And now we have the elections come this end of the year, and they wanted her to come as a governor, but or a senator, is that how I say senator? But we didn't have the chance, and after that, she just became this worldwide symbol for human rights and women, and especially Black women and poor people who come from the slums.
When you hear of people talking about feminist foreign policy, how does that translate in reality in Rio or anywhere else in Brazil? How could that manifest itself to protect people like your sister or you? You're an educator.
Yes, since they killed Marielle, we have been threatened in many ways, like online, face-to-face, because Rio and Brazil, we are facing a very difficult time, politically speaking. Politicals have been killed. We cannot really speak everywhere or anywhere, and we have no protection at all, at all. I've been speaking out for her since she got killed, and since then, my Facebook, my Insta have been full of messages threatening me because they believe that Black women cannot speak. They believe that women cannot speak in Rio de Janeiro, we can't. Everywhere we go, everywhere we say that we are Marielle's family, a lot of people come and say, oh, I'm sorry, my condolences, but many people also say, oh, she used to defend Black people and poor people, so why should we care about her? So we are facing very difficult times. I hope maybe with this good news that we had today, something can be changed, especially around the world, in Brazil and everywhere, because women are dying. We are dying so much, and we don't see how things can get better,
Thank you. Minister Gould, so Canada has a feminist international assistance policy. Maybe you can help us understand, does that also extend to other elements of foreign policy, trade and diplomatic affairs? Is it officially a feminist foreign policy across the board, or just for international assistance?
Yes, it's official. It's across the board. J'aimerais seulement commencer pour remercier tout le monde que je suis ici et pour donner les salutations de ma chère amie et mon collègue, la ministre Chrystia Freeland. Elle ne pourrait pas être ici aujourd'hui. Et aussi, je vois beaucoup de gens ici qui ont donné d'informations et qui ont participé dans la création du politique étrangère internationale, étrangère féministe. Alors, merci beaucoup à tout le monde dans cette chambre qui a contribué à cet effort-là. Avant d'être la ministre des institutions démocratiques, j'étais dans la secrétaire parlementaire pour le développement international. Alors, je peux dire avec confiance que c'est vraiment une politique partout au gouvernement d'avoir une agenda féministe, soit dans l'étrangère politique, soit dans la diversification de notre commerce international et aussi dans l'assistance internationale que nous avons. Mais aussi, comme gouvernement, nous sommes tellement préoccupés pour assurer que nous avons des politiques féministes et qui ont le but d'être égalitaires entre les hommes et femmes partout au gouvernement.
Merci. So, something that we're talking about a lot in Canada right now is NAFTA and trade agreements. A lot of times, trade agreements, globalization hurt women because they're in the lowest skilled jobs, the most precarious jobs. So I'm wondering, in the case of the NAFTA negotiations, does the feminist foreign policy actually have much impact on that whole process?
Well, I think we should take a step back and ask ourselves kind of what you were doing is, what is a feminist foreign policy? And I should say that part of it is sitting on the stage right now and providing an opportunity for people who around the world may not have an opportunity to raise their voices here. And that's one thing that Canada can and does do on many different occasions. And so the very fact that I'm sitting here with three brave, courageous, incredible women who are doing such good and important work is part of that process. And so when we think about a feminist foreign policy in all of its aspects, and when it comes to trade, it means that when we go to the negotiating table, we do so with the mindfulness and the intentionality of ensuring that that equity and that equality between the genders, but also for marginalized groups, no matter what. negotiations are negotiations. But that being said, we go to the table to try and ensure that we're getting the best deal and outcome for everyone involved. When it comes to international assistance, I'm very proud of what the government's done, the $650 million for sexual health and reproductive rights around the world, ensuring that we're standing up for women's rights at all occasions, and making sure that 95% of our international assistance has, a gender component to it. And I'm sorry, you give a politician a microphone and she's just going to go and
well,
go.
Let me ask you a little bit more about NAFTA, though, because there's a lot of talk about a gender chapter, but those chapters are not binding. So I guess I'm just not clear on how that would make an impact for women if the part that's about women doesn't bind anyone, doesn't bind Donald Trump, doesn't bind AMLO in Mexico to anything ultimately.
But it's there, and it's never been there before. And it hasn't been part of the conversation previously. And I think, one of the things that sometimes we talk about when we're talking about the economy is we talk about very male-dominated industries. And when I think your question was a really good one and a really relevant one, like, women are often in precarious, low-income employment. So how do we ensure that we're thinking more broadly about that? And I think this is a really important first step. Your first question with regards to feminist foreign policy, there are not many countries around the world that are thinking like this. So this is new territory that we are exploring right now. And, I think we're going in very boldly, actually, much more boldly than some people might want us to, because sometimes people say, and you can read it in the news, why are you bothering with gender in the NAFTA negotiations? That's just a distraction on the side. Well, actually, we think it's really important, and that's why we're moving forward with it. And so we could choose to not move forward with it and listen to what was going on, but actually we're committed to it and working hard to make sure that the item is on the agenda.
So on that point, even in Canada, I think we can agree that some people don't like the word feminist. We all have different definitions for what it is. So, Theo, I have a question for you. So Sweden, which is sort of at the vanguard of talking about feminist foreign policy, they've had feminist foreign policy since 2014. They even have a handbook online for feminist foreign policy. How does that perceived, do you think, and I'm not asking you to respond for every country in the world, but how do you think it's perceived by countries in the global south when you have a country from the north, the west, that comes and says, we've got a feminist foreign policy and we want to do it this way? Is it, what do you think of that?
Okay, so I can't speak for all countries, in the global south. No. I can tell. What I can speak for a little bit is African feminists and African women's rights activists and movements, because that's something that I'm a part of. And I know that when we heard of the Swedish feminist foreign policy, and when we heard about Canada and the feminist international assistance policy, we were really excited, because the truth of the matter is most countries announce their foreign policies and their foreign policy priorities, and people accept them without blinking. They don't say, oh, how is this going to affect the relationship with X country? They're actually just thinking about their priorities and the priorities that they want to show that their country is thinking about. So I think that when you have Sweden or when you have Canada and they say we are going to have a feminist foreign policy, it's a really important statement. Yeah, there's so many people and different definitions of feminism, and people talk about lipstick feminists and radical feminists and this feminist and that feminist. And, bottom line, for me, feminism isn't a label. It's what you do about transforming unequal power relationships in this world. And so if Canada says that they are going to make sure that their policies, both at home and abroad, because you can't say we're going to do this in other countries, but in our country, we really don't care. If you do that, then that's hypocrisy. But if you really are saying that you're going to have a feminist foreign policy, which means that in your own country, as well as in your relationships internationally, you are going to focus on inequality. You are going to focus on transforming power relationships. You're going to focus on transforming the inequities, the violence against women, against communities. Then I think that that's something that anyone who actually wants a better world would and does welcome. But it's the difference between saying something and actually doing something.
Mm-hmm. So on the doing something front, a lot of the times our funding in the past has gone to big global organizations. What is your view on how best to direct funding that's related to a feminist foreign policy for women's, or speaking for the women's organizations that you are close to?
Okay, so I'm also going to take you back just a little step because I actually think, because I think that it's also about resourcing more than just the money. There's more than money that's involved. And part of being effective in your resourcing is in knowing how to listen. If it's a truly feminist foreign policy, then you listen to the people who are most affected by the situations that you say you want to try and transform. And that doesn't even take money. That actually takes will and determination. But if you start from that, then it helps you know how you fund. So I always think of this as an ecosystem. There are really important roles that large international NGOs play in the transformation of power. And they need funding for that too. What's wrong is when you have an ecosystem and 90% of your funding is with organizations from the global north who are acting in the global south. That is what doesn't work. And that is one of the things that I think everyone needs to think about, whether it's government or whether it's philanthropy or whether it's other financing mechanisms. You cannot ask the people who are most affected and most effective in that space simply to deal with the margins of financing. And when you do that, you actually leverage up the unequal power relations. So I think absolutely there's a role for the large INGOs, but absolutely the system we have at the moment is totally unfair. And if it's truly a feminist foreign policy, then we have to have more direct funding to the organizations on the ground who are doing the work and making the change.
So you're one of those groups that's right on the ground. Yes. What do you see about how how this all unfolds?
Yes, because we are grassroots level activists, and our organization is a small organization, but we are directly work with the ground people. So in this when we ask about the support, there is so many systems we have to ask. There is so many times. Sometimes we need on the spot some support. But without support, we cannot do. And I am. What is the example? In the last 3 months, I asked for women, the girls. They need a course about only 3-month course, and I asking for fund some NGO and some community. They say you need time, but I have only 3 months, and now I'm at 2 months. Still, I didn't get the fund because this is very necessary for me to give the course to that girls. The girls, they have an admission test in January, so they need some skill. Without fund, I cannot do it. So in this issue, the grassroots NGO, they need directly fund. So I think this is.
Yeah, it seems like you have to go through a lot of layers of bureaucracy.
This is so many levels you have to. You need 6 months, 1 year also. This is a lot of time. Time is going, and if I can give this, suppose cannot give, they cannot attend the exam in the January. So what else about your funding? You are doing for funding for the good point. On time we are not getting this one. So what else? So need direct fund. It's not big issue, but small or primary, but the directly fund is necessary for grassroots NGO.
And I think that there are ways of doing it, because we do also understand that if you're working on the ground, if you're a bilateral government, you're thinking about the fact that this is taxpayers' money, so you want it to be safe.
There's accountability issues.
Exactly. And we recognize that, because actually, if you're working in a movement, accountability is core. But it's not just accountability to donors, it's accountability to the people on whose behalf you take the money. It's accountability to the people who are doing the work and who are making the change. So I don't expect Sweden to sit in their capital and know that this small group in, I don't know, rural Botswana, but probably Botswana is a terrible example because they're actually, anyway, not, but in a rural part of a specific African country, I don't expect bureaucrats and civil servants in Sweden to actually understand that. What I do expect is that if you have a feminist foreign policy, that you are working with feminist organizations who can make those linkages for you, who can sit there and say, actually, this is what we do. We know how to get money to small groups. We are based in the South. AWDF is part of a coalition between 4 women's funds, FMS in South America, FIMI, who do indigenous women's funding globally, Women's Fund Asia, and ourselves. And the specific role that we play is to actually attract the funds, do the fundraising, and then work together to get the money out to the small, southern-based grassroots organizations. We call it Leading from the South because it's about our agendas. And then solidarity, because that's what it takes. Solidarity between different parts of the ecosystem that's working to transform.
And that's been a policy since global policy, right? Since 2005, the Paris Declaration on international assistance, that the country itself should be directing.
Yeah, but the OECD DAC is, I mean, it's slightly different. It's more, the OECD DAC is more about setting the priorities, not necessarily working with grassroots organizations on the ground. But I think it was a good step. But one of the things that I wanted to pick up on for both of you is, many people in this room are familiar with the review that we did of our international assistance policy, and part of that was, we spoke to people across Canada, many people in this room, people across the world, and one of the key findings that came out of that review was working with local women's organizations on the ground, because they know what their communities need. And oftentimes it's not much that they need. You're talking about some funding for girls to get a crash course so that they can apply to get into school. I mean, oftentimes it's $10,000 or $15,000 that will make the world of difference in this community that people are working in. And so understanding that, and I have to say that, the feminist and the women-led organizations here in Canada played such a strong and important role in highlighting that for us as we were doing this review. And I would challenge you. I think civil servants and bureaucrats and capitals around the world do need to know that, right? And I would argue that many of ours in Canada do, but they don't necessarily have the policy tools in place to make it happen. And so
there's also habits.
And
right?
There's also habits, right?
Over
and there's
time,
long processes of how things have come to be the way that they are. But part of this feminist foreign policy and feminist international assistance policy is changing those habits. And as much as, as a politician, I want things to change now, yesterday, right? It takes time to get these things going. But I can say that from my time as the Parliamentary Secretary for International Development, that was taking hold, and it's taking hold. And I think there's a lot of excitement in our civil service, particularly in global affairs, about what this means and what it means in terms of actually delivering results on the ground. Because the other thing that you said is really important is it's about accountability to taxpayers who are providing this assistance, but it's also about accountability to the people who you're trying to assist and to make sure that you're doing right by them. And so this is what a feminist foreign policy and a feminist international assistance policy looks like in practice. And so we have the grand objectives, and now we're working through the system to make it a reality on the ground and to actually impact that change. And the important part that you said was about listening. And I was listening to you, and I was listening to you. And one of the things that you talked about, particularly in crisis situations, is something that we hear when we were doing the Women, Peace and Security study on the Foreign Affairs and International Development Committee, which the Women's Nobel Peace Initiative spoke on. But something that we don't really think about is that security for little things, walking to the bathroom, right? And it seems almost silly when you think about it that way, but actually it's such an important part of people feeling safe in a refugee camp, is ensuring that, you know, the women's washroom is accessible and safe and they're not worried about being attacked on the way there. And so when we're going through our Canadian National Action Plan for Women, Peace and Security, what are we doing to ensure that those little everyday micro moments, people are feeling safe and we're actually making a difference? And that's what a feminist foreign policy and feminist international assistance policy is. So that's what we're trying to get to.
Okay, I think we have to get there faster. Yeah. I sit here and no, it's because that particular example, I sit here and 20 or maybe even 25 years ago, we were working on a children in armed conflict study in which Canada was actually a major player in terms of support. The issue about safe spaces in refugee camps, UNHCR knew that 25 years ago. We know the vulnerabilities. And what I don't understand is how we know something for year after year after year, and still women are attacked on their way to collect wood, attacked on their way to have baths. And I suppose for me, the effective feminist policy would be when those nations, when Canada and Sweden get together with other nations that believe in these things and make these things happen, make it more than people talking about it, but say to the more patriarchal foreign policies that exist, yeah, you can talk about your nuclear weapons, but you can only talk about your nuclear weapons if at the same time you are talking about these other changes that we want to make, and you're looking at the whole of the experience for people.
Yeah, just to give you one example of what she said, like in Brazil, every 12 minutes a woman suffers any kind of violence. If we go to the university, like the State University of Rio de Janeiro, when we go to the bathroom, it's so scary. Like sometimes even the security guys try to rape the girls. Like it's so insane. And I mean, I studied for a few years because I used to be a volleyball player. And my mom and my sister, they worked like many years and hours so I could be able to study out of the country. And every time I got back there, Marielle would say, oh, today we have a workshop about security in Rio de Janeiro, but things don't ever change. Like she was working and got killed. Like sometimes we go to the university and we get raped. And it's so scary around there. We don't have any protection, any way to change, because unfortunately we be scared even from the police. Like people who should be protecting us are the ones, like, you know, like even the political part, some of them. That's why she was the goal for them to shut her down, because she used to point out those problems.
She was a threat.
Yes, yeah. And she was a big threat for them because she used to say, look, this man, this politician, they don't do what they're supposed to do. And women are just dying. We are dying every day and being raped, being violent from parents, from employees. And it's very scary.
You raised something that's brought up with also around feminist foreign policy, which is having more women in peacekeeping and security. And in the context that you're living in Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, would it make a difference if there were more women that were actually working as security or police or in peacekeeping functions?
I hope because of the situation, there is very few women, very, very few women are working in the ground level. There's some volunteer, but there is their own policy. But like me, I didn't see anyone because this is very challenging now for us. This is one kind. First, everyone thought, this is a very nice job. Oh, you are doing this one. When we face this kind of issue, when I in the front line, so many women, so many girls, they want to come with me. When they saw I am now under threat, now they're all gone. So how can I encourage? I want to be a role model, not a fear. So we have to speak out about if we be strong, maybe we can ask we can bring the woman, but first we need our own security.
And that safety issue, I think, is really important because the truth of the matter is we need to completely change the way in which our peacekeepers operate in those settings. There are some fantastic peacekeeping forces. There are some fantastic peacekeepers who have put themselves at risk in situations of armed conflict. But there's also been a real core of sexual violence and sexual exploitation, which is made worse because, as Anielle was saying, when the very people who are meant to be protecting you are the ones that exploit and assault you, it's 100 times worse because it violates everything they stand for. So yes, we should have more women peacekeepers, absolutely. But those women peacekeepers are at risk themselves very often from very toxic masculine approaches and ways of being in some of these forces. So yes, bring on more women peacekeepers, but only if they're going to be safe. And that means making sure that the military peacekeeping forces really stick to their own values and their own ethics, which are there. And you see some countries where incidents happen and those countries take action straight away. Then you see other countries where things happen and it's swept very quickly underground and nothing changes. And so, you know, again, a feminist foreign policy, I'd really like to see Canada and others pushing for changes at the UN in the issue of accountability for peacekeeping and for peacekeeping forces, because that's a really concrete way of actually looking at some of the protection issues for women, refugees, and displaced people, and children, young girls and young boys.
You've brought up the issue of structural change or structural issues. I think there's something like 15 countries in the world where a husband can still prevent his wife from having employment. So with those daunting issues before us, or people who are working in feminist foreign policy, how do you approach a country or a region where gender norms, structural issues are so opposite to what you're trying to achieve? Like, what is the way to get at that in an effective way?
Well, you see, I actually think that there are very few of those countries that are left where the gender norms are so hugely different. I do think that there are countries that make excuses. I'm really tired of hearing people say, oh, we do this because it's our culture. Right. And it's our culture how, and it's really easy, I think, for people to choose to remember harmful traditional practices and forget about the the practices that protected the growth of our communities. You know, people often say, oh, African and feminist, that can't work out. And you want to say, you know what? Yeah, Santua stood up to the British colonialists, and she was not an exception, she was the rule. So I truly think that the way forward, number one, is the way in which the world has always progressed, that people get together and they work on core values and they bring people along with them and they open the space for the values that we all share. But the other thing about it is about solidarity. There's an assumption very often that in these countries where the worst of women's rights violations are taking place, and I shouldn't say the worst because there's some really horrible women's rights violations that take place in countries in the global north. But
yeah,
there's
right here in this country.
yeah,
Yes.
but there's an assumption that there's some kind of monolithic country where it's values from the West are being brought to be imposed. And I see very few of those monolithic countries. And when I look at Africa, I know that there are movements, there are communities, there are, whole areas where the value systems are exactly the same. And just because an elite decides to grab power and hold onto power and oppress women, girls, lesbians, disabled people, that does not make them the voice of that country. And that's where we have to start again with that thing of listening. Because if we're listening and we're working with the people on the ground in those countries, then we're not imposing external values. We're enabling people to make their own agendas and to raise those own agendas and then work in solidarity internationally.
Let me ask you a sort of devil's advocate type question, which is that why call it feminist foreign policy? Are you, by the action of calling it feminist foreign policy, excluding vulnerable men, vulnerable boys, gay men, people in conflict? Is that just the name say that you're focusing on one group over another?
What is feminism? Feminism is inclusionary. Feminism is about equality. It's about, as you talked about, shrinking the space between disparities in power, right? So whether that's between men and women, whether that's between straight and gay, whether that's between any people of difference, feminism is about equality and equity. And so I was very fortunate because I was the Parliamentary Secretary for International Development at the time when we were consulting on the International Assistance Review. And I had the opportunity to speak to people across Canada and across the world. And often people would say, well, but don't forget about men and boys, right? Why are you just focusing on girls and women? Well, we're not just focusing on girls and women, right? Men and boys absolutely have to be part of that picture.
But you do see there's a perception, even in Canada, right?
Let me get to this. I'm going to tell you a little story. And I was in Kenya. I was in Nairobi, and I was visiting a school, and it was all girls, right? And we're talking and we're dancing, and they're showing me this little magazine that they created about menstruation, and it was like really awesome. And then I was about to leave, and this teacher came up and he said, "Would it be okay if you spoke to the boys?" And I said, there are boys here? Where are the boys? And they had thought at that point that because we were so focused on women and girls that I wasn't interested in the boys. And so they had actually kept the boys at the back of the school so that I wouldn't see them. And so part of why I'm saying that is because when we talk about feminism, it's because we recognize that on the one hand, there's a lot of work to do everywhere, but girls generally start off with less of a start, right? That there's more work to bring them up to where the boys are, but that doesn't mean that we're leaving the boys behind, because ultimately it's about raising everyone up. And so by saying feminism, we say it with intentionality, we say it with mindfulness about what we're doing, but it's ultimately about raising everyone up. But we also know that women and girls are often further behind than men and boys. So we need to catch them up, but we need to be raising everyone up with that. And of course, people think that, you know, by saying it, we're forgetting about men or whatever the case may be, but that's part of our conversation. That's part of the discussion that we have with people about what it is that we mean by this and why it's important. Why is it important that we include women and girls in the conversation? Why is it important that we talk about equality and equity? Because we know that we will be better off, all of us, when all of us have those equal opportunities and we all start at the same starting line.
Anielle, in Brazil, is it useful to talk about feminism and feminist foreign policy in different contexts?
Yes, we have many programs now from under secondary, high school, then we go teaching about feminism, but also including boys. We have started this maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And as a teacher there, we've been so proud that now, even, because let me go back a little bit, some of the teachers, like the male teachers, they be like, oh, this is just, you know, silly. You should not talk about feminism here. But now, even them, they are coming together with us and asking that we cannot, like her said, we cannot just go alone and just put the girls up there and don't teach boys how to treat females. We cannot do it. And now schools are finally realizing how important it is, because every other day we have a girl, even a little girl, being raped or suffering any kind of violence. So it's so important to have both together.
So, Minister, I'm just going to come back to you for a second. So both Sweden and Canada are in, for lack of a better term, electoral year, the countries that have this feminist foreign policy. How do you ensure, if you believe that it's the way to go and that it's effective, how do you ensure that it doesn't disappear with a change of government and that it's not just attached to, let's say, your party as a brand or as something that embodies your way of thinking as a party, and make sure that whoever wins the next election carries on with that kind of a foreign policy?
I don't know, the leader
That's
of the opposition
question.
calls himself a feminist now, so. But it's tough because obviously, you know, a different party comes in and they have different objectives and different milestones. But I think that the objective is one that Canadians support. They support equality, they support equity. I think the programs and policies that we're putting in place will bear fruit, and I think the results will speak for themselves. And so I think changing that will become more difficult because we will see how positive the results are on the ground, and that's what ultimately will make the difference. We're not quite in an electoral year yet. It's, you know, it's 2018.
Feels like it.
It's 2018 still. Don't totally freak me out.
A year out, yeah. Yeah.
But I really believe that what we're doing is the right thing. As I said, policy takes a long time to take place, but I do think that the results on the ground will speak for themselves, and that hopefully future governments will keep that. And then the other part of it is the people in this room who are advocating and who are working hard to make sure that we carry on this tradition will speak up loudly and firmly to ensure that no matter who is in government, they are making their voices heard and ensuring that we are doing what's right for Canadians, but what's also right for people around the world. So if I'm not there, many of you have lobbied me yourselves, but if I'm not there, then, you know, it's also on all of you to make sure that you keep fighting and keep working for it, because democracy is evergreen and you never know what's going to happen.
So I'm going to take your questions in a second, but I'm going to keep you on the spot there. Theo said earlier that things aren't all about money. There's looking at the ways that you approach international assistance. The OECD last week scolded Canada. Your government's spending less on international assistance than the last government. Is that important element? Are we going to hear about more funding coming up? So we're at least up to the average of other Western countries?
I'm not the Minister of International Development.
Okay.
But what I can say is I do think where we're spending our money is important. I mentioned it at the beginning. Sexual health and reproductive rights is so important and so fundamental when it comes to supporting women around the world and ensuring that we are delivering what they need. I think that is really important. The other thing that you mentioned, Theo, is solidarity. And you talked about, the need for Canada and like-minded countries to try to create structural reform at the United Nations, to lobby and advocate for what's important for us when it comes to peacekeeping or other things. I would also say it's diplomacy, right? I mean, Minister Freeland has been steadfast in her support of women human rights activists around the world. I mean, human rights activists more broadly, but specifically when it comes to women human rights advocates. Also ensuring that when we're speaking with our counterparts around the world, we are raising those issues and ensuring that they know where Canada stands on them. When it comes to human rights defenders, speaking up for them here in Canada, but also around the world, and letting countries know that we're watching, that we take seriously what they're doing when it comes to their human rights defenders. Those are all really important actions that we can take and we are taking that are meaningful when it comes to our foreign policy. So yes, of course, money is important, but actions are also really important and we are taking those.
Add one thing to that. I absolutely agree with what you're saying. The piece that I would add to it is when I say, money really is important and the how you spend it is important and who gets it is important. But at the same time as you're making sure that your partners in the world understand where Canada stands, I think there's a really important role to play in government around regulation of the private sector in the country and externally when it comes to a feminist foreign policy. Because sometimes private sector companies can do more, either more harm or more good, with specific policy actions that they do or don't take. So, really simple ones are things like proper labor rights and proper equal pay, not just in the boardroom, but for the women in the fields or the women on the factories and things. And if you're a massive multinational company, one clear decision and implementation around equal pay and proper labor rights can probably have more impact than any amount of money that the ODA could put into an economic security program. So there's something about regulation of companies because, and that has to happen in solidarity with countries from the global south, because sometimes those big international companies come in and they run rampant over human rights. So on the one hand, we're trying to defend women human rights defenders, and particularly in the environmental area where they have been being murdered in large numbers. And on the other hand, they're private sector companies who, I'm not saying they're ordering that, but they are enabling certain elements in other countries to make those women more vulnerable. And that's putting it as nicely as I can.
If I can just add on to that, because I think also part of a feminist foreign policy is also acknowledging that we're not perfect here in Canada either, that there's still a lot of work that we have to do. I certainly there are areas where we are more equal than in other parts of the world, but we still have work to do here. But I would say that the number one thing I heard when I was traveling around the world was with regards to technical assistance to ensure that countries' regulations and laws were in place, because they would look at what we had in Canada with regards to labor or specifically around extractive industries, and say those are the areas where we would like support to be able to build strong regulations so that we can actually deal with these issues internally in a way that will have better impacts on the ground. So I think your point is excellent, and I'm listening, and I will share it with my colleagues.
So I would love to take your questions dans en français, en anglais, comme vous voulez, en espagnol même. Je parle espagnol. Yes, sir. Portuguese. Yes, you could translate for us.
Hello. My name is Fareed Khan. I'm the Advocacy Director and Media Relations Director for the Rohingya Human Rights Network. And one of our people has been working with Razia in the camps in Bangladesh. I would like a comment from both Razia and the Minister. When the Prime Minister appointed half his cabinet as women, that was seen as revolutionary, but it was a great thing. And we then had, when there was a cabinet shuffle, we had a female appointed as Foreign Affairs Minister, the third, I believe, in Canada's history. Last year, when the atrocities came to light out of Myanmar, the evidence was there that the primary victims of what was going on were women. Ultimately, over 80,000 women got raped, not just women and young girls. Over 60% of the women or the people in the camps are women. And I don't know what discussion was going on around the table at that time, but by that point last year, there had already been more than a decade of evidence that had been made available about the fact that a genocide agenda was underway in Myanmar. In Yemen, you've got a government, Saudi Arabia, which is bombing and killing people, and once again, the primary victims are women. They're being supported by some of our allies. We are selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, some of those weapons which are being used by Saudi Arabia in that conflict. Third example, for
I'm hearing a question
No,
coming.
there's a question coming. There's a question coming. Third example, for 70 years, Israel has been brutally oppressing the Palestinian people. Just a little over a year ago, a 15-year-old, Ahed Tamimi, was arrested for slapping an Israeli soldier after he shot, I can't remember if it was a brother or her uncle. She was arrested and jailed for slapping the soldier. The soldier didn't get any sort of penalty because there was no indication there was violence. I would say that despite the fact that the Prime Minister says that the government has a feminist foreign policy, it is failing. In my view, it's failing in the view of a lot of people. Because if there was a feminist foreign policy and if the government was implementing it as opposed to talking and just using words, they would have come out last year to condemn what happened in Myanmar and condemning Aung San Suu Kyi, a woman foreign minister who was complicit with what happened under her watch. They would be reviewing the sale of arms to Saudi Arabia, where women and children are being killed, and they would actually speak out rather than remaining silent throughout the 3 years that they have been in government. And it's not just your government, because it's been the Conservatives did the same thing when they were in power, where women are the primary victims. In fact, a woman minister in Israel called for the genocide of all women Palestinians so that there would not be a next generation.
So I want to hear the women answer your question.
Yes,
So
I would like to say, because in the view of a lot of people, this feminist policy is failing. So I would like both a comment from the minister as well. Razia, what you think of all of this?
Yes, this is very disappointed. We are raising voice about what? Feminism. But what else what you say? Action. This is just we say we are feminists, but we have to implement this one. We need women's voice and what you say. I'm sorry about I'm not proper. I cannot speak proper English, but feminism. This is a word for me. For me, feminism is not overcome the man. I want to work with him together. But there is a wrong mind. The feminism means, oh no, the woman, they want to overcome the man. But this is totally wrong. We have to make them understand, no, we want to, because we have all capability that you have. So you have to support us. Feminism is not the extra or we are dominating the man or man walls. No, we want to be together for a peace environment, not overcome the man. So you have to be practical, not only in the boys. you have to be practical in the feminism. That's.
Do you want to respond, Minister?
Sure. I mean, look, everyone is going to have a different opinion, and I welcome yours, and I thank you for your comments on this. I think that with regards to Myanmar, I think we did come out very soon after the conflict to condemn the actions that were going on there, to specifically with regards to the military government there. We appointed Bob Rae as the special envoy. Today in Parliament, the entire House of Commons condemned the actions and recognized what was going on as a genocide. I completely understand the feeling of it's not fast enough. I understand where you're coming from on that. But I think when it comes to foreign policy, we have stood up on many occasions to condemn violence wherever it is in the world. And I guess one thing that I want to clarify is that a feminist foreign policy doesn't just look at conflicts where women are the primary victims. I mean, that's not the point of it, but understanding how we can better protect women in these situations. And I think that our government has been very strong in condemning violence around the world and doing what we can within the international system. But I take your point, and there's always more that we can do. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. Yeah. You can come to the microphone there. Oh.
Désolée. Bonjour, mais je vais poser ma question en français.
Oui.
Merci beaucoup, mesdames, pour cette présentation et de nous faire connaître des situations que peut-être parfois on ignore ou peut-être qu'elles sont tellement... On pense qu'elles sont loin de nous, mais elles ne sont pas loin parce qu'on vit des situations aussi difficiles ici au Canada aussi. Ma question s'adresserait à Madame la ministre et aussi à mesdames qui êtes là. Moi, mon nom est Salma Quidri d'abord et je suis au réseau d'action des femmes handicapées du Canada. Et je suis coordonnatrice d'inclusion. Ma question est essayer de comprendre un petit peu ou d'avoir une réponse concernant la façon de faire du Canada. Qu'est-ce qu'il propose pour pouvoir s'assurer qu'aucune femme et aucune fille n'est oubliée quand il s'agit de politique internationale, au niveau de politique féministe internationale qui est très encourageante. Ici, que ce soit au Canada, ici on nous parle beaucoup de l'analyse comparative selon le sexe qui est plus, et on se dit, bon, il y a des femmes qui ne vont pas être oubliées, des groupes qui ne seront pas oubliés, et comment on procède au niveau international pour ouvrir la discussion, le débat auprès des organisations sur le terrain, pour qu'aucune femme ne soit oubliée et aucune femme. Vous avez parlé aussi de santé sexuelle et droits reproductifs, et on sait qu'il y a des conventions internationales qui précisent que l'un des groupes les plus vulnérables et qui n'a accès à aucun programme au niveau international, ce sont bien les femmes et les filles handicapées. Donc j'aimerais avoir une réponse, voir comment les femmes sur le terrain font cela et comment le Canada compte remédier à cette situation. Merci.
So it sounds to me like a bit of a question about intersectionality as well. How do you make sure that...
Si vous voulez, je pourrais commencer puisque vous terminez d'attendre la traduction. Mais je vous remercie beaucoup pour la question parce que c'est une question excellente et ça fait grand partie de ce que nous avons fait pendant la revue de notre politique internationale pour s'assurer de justement ce que vous avez dit, que personne, que n'importe quelle femme, selon leur accessibilité ou les défis qu'elles ont soient laissés en arrière. Alors, nous travaillons avec nos partenaires internationaux pour assurer qu'il y a des programmes et des politiques sur l'intersectionnalité et comment on dit ça, le GPA+, non? Oui, l'analyse comparative plus. non? Alors, le plus, c'est d'assurer que nous prenons en compte toutes les autres externalités en ajoutant au sexe, qui ne sont pas seulement le sexe. Alors, c'est vraiment une partie de la politique internationale que nous avons et ça fait partie de chaque projet d'assistance internationale que nous avons et que nous faisons avec les partenaires. Comme j'ai dit, ce n'est pas parfait, mais c'est quelque chose en ce que nous sommes en train de travailler très fort, particulièrement dans le cas de l'assistance humanitaire et dans les cas de conflit, parce qu'on sait qu'en addition aux femmes qui ont déjà des handicaps, il y a des femmes qui ont réalisé de nouveaux handicap. Alors, comment est-ce que nous pouvons les appuyer dans ces cas particulièrement difficiles? Et c'est quelque chose qui nous travaillons dédié avec nos partenaires. Alors, merci beaucoup pour la question. C'était excellent.
Do we have any other questions for our guests? Theo, maybe I'll ask you, the women that you work with, just following up on her question, which was about making sure that no woman is forgotten, especially women who have disabilities. So the organizations that you work with, does that come up a lot?
Absolutely. It's actually central to our policy and our strategy. We actually are very, very clear about working with the full range and diversity of African women. And we make an additional point about wanting to, because of intersectionality, wanting to work with women who are living with multiple discriminations. So we know that as an African woman, you suffer from a system of discrimination, but as an African woman living with disability, there's an additional layer of discrimination. And that happens with many sectors and many populations which our systems have ended up marginalizing. So we try very hard to have what we call cut across policies and actions to really make sure that we're being inclusive. We don't always get it right. And actually one of the things that we've been looking at even in our own offices is about the fact that we've had interns who've worked with us, and this year was the first time that we had a blind woman who became one of our interns, and it made us question how we've been actually getting interns, because this is an opportunity for people. So we don't always get it right, but we do ask the questions, and in our grant making, we're really very deliberate about that, and that's part of our listening as well, and listening to organizations that are led by women living with disabilities, because at one point when we looked at our funding, we realized we were funding people to work with disability, but quite often it was the organizations weren't being led by women with disabilities themselves. So we made almost like an additional set of questions for ourselves. We haven't got it right yet, but we're still trying.
So speaking of listening, just to wrap up tonight, and you are excused from this question, Minister Gould. No offense to you, but so this in the next few days we're going to have a gathering of ministers in Montreal, foreign ministers, and so for Theo, Anielle, Razia, if you had to give them some advice on how to best push forward, I don't need to hear you talk about this. What advice would you give them about how to make feminist foreign policy effective, truly effective? We'll go this way. You start, Theo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd say to them, intersectionality. Make sure that you're truly working with all aspects of discrimination and oppression. Don't individualize. This isn't about individual men and women. This is about systems of oppression. If your foreign policy is truly feminist, then you dismantle those systems of oppression. Look inward as well as outward. It says foreign policy, but actually what you do at home also affects what happens outside. And most important of all, listen. listen to the people that you're meant to be working with. Make sure that in the work that you do, you actively dismantle the power relationships. And that means ensuring that the partnerships in the global south are stronger than they are now. Be very deliberate about how the money is spent and make sure that you're strengthening women in the global south and not undermining them by trying to fund our vulnerabilities instead of our strengths. And I think that the final thing I would say is don't think of women from the global south as victims. We are agents of change. We have kept our countries and our continents alive and safe for generations. So think of us as partners, not as victims and not as people that you do things to.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I think that's worth an applause.
I think we should end right there. I mean, we're done. How can I talk after her? Just to add it up, I would say that they need to find some way to, like, keep these people, these women safe. Like we have to, especially like in third world countries like Brazil, we are not safe at all. So I would go adding of all of you said, but security would be so important. And another thing is, many times I see in Brazil people coming there and say, oh, we need to help you, NGOs, and see how can we give some money, but they don't listen. They don't know where we're coming from. Like, you cannot just go in Brazil and go, for example, in Maré, where we live, it's so dangerous, and just give money to any person that this money not going to come to us, you know? And another point would be these women who has suffered any kind of violence, how can we get them back to their lives? This would be something that I would really ask for help. For example, even psychological help. Like my mom saw my sister getting killed, and how can we help like these women who every other day they lose their kids to a violent state that we live in Brazil? No, I think I would that up.
Thank you.
Got no options.
Thank you. Yes.
Women. Again, women. I have to remind, women must think they are not special. They are equal. They are a person. I grew up in Bangladesh, and I saw the both sides of women. The president also woman, the opposition also woman. And I belong the country that's also women. But in these two countries, I saw one thing. There is just some quota for special for the woman. We don't need specialized. We have capable. We have that courage to achieve that one. Women can competition. If you need something, you have to work with the man. If you select for them, this is for you, she will look that one. Oh, anyway, I will get this one. So in this time, she make her mind, I deserve that one. But actually, she doesn't deserve that one. You have to achieve this one. This is happened still in Bangladesh. Our president is a woman. There is this parliament member, selected member. They are capable or not, but they come from the selected, and they don't even know what is the background of the politics. So, as a woman, I'm saying women should become to their own capability. So in this, then we can explain that, yes, we are here, we are women, we can do everything. We don't need you select for me this one. No, I can choose this one because I can.
Sounds like you're talking about quotas and,
yes, no, not for quota. Quota narrow our rights, you know. This is a one kind of embarrassment for me. As a woman, for me, is embarrassment. Because I can achieve that one. why is he selected for me? That is my point. The women have to be competition with everyone. That's it. Is it?
Yeah, well, I get it.
No, it's okay.
So let me say, I agree with you that women are totally competent and we are totally capable of doing anything that we want. Our problem is that people put up fake barriers. So if you don't have the same opportunities as men, it means that we never achieve what we can achieve. So I agree that we're totally capable, but I think everybody has to break down the things that oppress some people more than others. That's...
The system is made for man, but we have to break the system.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's it.
Those are good words to end on, I think.
I think so.
So, Theo, I think we're all commit to listening. Yes, yes, yeah. Thank you for reminding us of that, you know, and our assumptions that we might have here in Canada, and that we should listen. So I appreciate all of your comments and interventions. Thank you, Theo. Thank you, Minister Gould. Thank you, Anielle. And thank you, Razia. And all of you, merci d'être venus ce soir. C'est très apprécié. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. On n'a pas tout à fait fini, désolée. On a fait beaucoup de liens entre la réalité des défenseurs des droits des femmes au nord comme au sud et la vulnérabilité qu'elles font face. On pourrait dire notamment pour les femmes autochtones qui luttent pour leurs droits au Canada et partout dans le monde. Donc, il me fait plaisir d'accueillir Madame Viviane Michel, présidente de Femmes autochtones Québec, pour le mot de la fin. Merci.
Oui, je vais lever, j'ai besoin comme ça. OK. Oui, nous te mettons hic, tu peux regarder non. Nous nous manan, nous scout ici, tu payes moi, qu'est-ce que c'est pas de moi j'ai scout ça. Max ici peut-être qu'il n'en te ban, n'a quoi de ça. Est-ce que il y a la bonne traduction? Bonjour tout le monde, bonsoir tout le monde plutôt. Je vous remercie de cet espace, évidemment. Et je me permets toujours de remercier le créateur. Je suis arrivée saine et sauve de Québec. Sur la 40, c'est pas évident. À 140, y a-t-il une police à quelque part? Bon. Mon prénom est Viviane Michel. Je suis de la nation Innu. Innu, dans ma langue, veut tout simplement dire être humain. Vous êtes des Inuits ici présents, sauf qu'on a une langue et une culture différentes à vous. Je suis la présidente de Femmes autochtones du Québec depuis 2012. Je finis mon mandat en novembre, 3e mandat, et envoyez-moi de la belle énergie pour un dernier mandat. Donc, pensez à moi au mois de novembre, le 18 novembre. On parle évidemment d'un mouvement, un mouvement de la place des femmes, peu importe dans quel domaine où est-ce qu'on est placé. Si on regarde la place des femmes, pour les femmes autochtones, elle n'est pas donnée. Okay, la place des femmes dans le monde politique, elle n'est pas donnée, mais on a quand même gagné beaucoup. Si on regarde Femmes autochtones du Québec, évidemment, il y a eu un temps où les femmes n'avaient pas sa place dans le monde politique. Femmes autochtones du Québec a beaucoup contribué à réveiller des consciences, à réveiller un leadership, à outiller des femmes dans plusieurs nations. Femmes autochtones du Québec représentent les 10 nations au Québec, incluant la population urbaine, Québec, Montréal, Hall, etc. Donc, la clé du succès, justement, pour la place des femmes, c'est vraiment outiller nos femmes, leur donner les moyens leur faire comprendre ou apprendre ou les sensibiliser face aux droits des femmes, aux droits de l'homme, aux droits universels, les droits constitutionnels qui est donné par l'État et qui peut nous servir à nous en tant que femmes. J'ai tout entendu ce soir d'eux par les vibrations, mais peu importe d'où on vient, nord, sud, est, ouest, on a une même lutte. On a une même vision de vouloir changer les choses. On a des convictions profondes qui nous poussent à aller au-delà, de l'avant. Et on le fait pour qui? C'est ça qui est important. On ne le fait pas pour notre propre personne. Moi, en tant que présidente, je me mets pas plus haut que les autres. Je me mets au même niveau. Femmes autochtones du Québec est une organisation qui va faire beaucoup de travail terrain. Le contact avec les femmes des nations est vraiment important, autant au niveau de la consultation, autant au niveau de la prise de parole et autant aussi en étant porte-parole de ces nations-là. Donc, je me nourris de ces femmes-là. J'ai un privilège, vraiment, je racontais à ma collègue de travail, Héloïse, que c'est un beau travail que je suis en train de faire. J'ai un beau privilège d'être en contact avec les femmes des nations. Où est-ce qu'elles vont me dire, où est-ce qu'elles vont même jusqu'à pleurer parce qu'il y a des inégalités, puis il y a de la discrimination qui est encore faite aux femmes, avec tous les enjeux qu'on peut avoir au Québec et au Canada, partout ailleurs. On va parler de racisme systémique, on va parler de violence, on va parler des agressions sexuelles, on va parler encore de ce que la Sûreté du Québec sont en train de faire avec nos femmes des Premières Nations. Donc, on est une organisation qui va beaucoup dénoncer, lutter, puis qui va vouloir revendiquer un changement social. Et je suis certaine que ces femmes-là ont eu le même langage, le changement social. Et je peux vous dire, là, ça va être peut-être mon langage féministe qui va sortir, mais c'est les femmes qui vont amener le changement. C'est les femmes qui sont capables de faire déplacer des montagnes pour arriver à un but précis. Parce qu'on est tenace, parce qu'on ne lâche pas, même si on rencontre des épreuves sur le chemin, on est des femmes qui est concernées directement et liées directement avec les enjeux de nos propres femmes, de nos enfants et de nos hommes. Dans ma culture, en tant que Première Nation, on ne peut pas exclure nos hommes. Si on veut travailler un processus de guérison ou de solution, on doit les inclure. Pour nous, je parle des Premières Nations, OK? Et ça nous a été inculqué à l'intérieur des communautés. Donc, le féminisme, d'après ce que vous dites, le féminisme est très fort, de plus en plus fort. Et on a encore un gros travail à faire, nous, les Premières Nations, justement, à se définir comme féministes. Il y en a que c'est facile, puis c'est correct, puis il y en a encore qui se posent encore la question. Parce qu'on n'est pas un peuple qui va catégoriser les choses, dans le sens... On a une mission à faire et on va le faire tout simplement pour le bien des nôtres. L'amélioration des conditions de vie dans tous les domaines est vraiment importante. Merci, mesdames, d'être venues si loin, d'avoir ces convictions-là et de le faire pour qui? On le sait, ce sont pour les gens de nos pays ou peu importe, mais je pense qu'on se rejoint à quelque part. Et c'est sûr que j'aurais aimé vous entendre, mais... Je sais qu'on a le même langage. Les gens qui sont ici ont le même langage ici. Il y a des choses... Moi, je suis du genre, je prends ce qui fait mon affaire. Ce qui ne fait pas mon affaire, je vais le mettre de côté, puis je vais avancer avec ça. Mais ce qui ne fait pas mon affaire, il y a des gens avec qui ça fait affaire. Donc, on est quand même complémentaires dans ce processus. Merci à votre animatrice, évidemment, qui a fait du beau travail, hein? Et je vous remercie vraiment de nous inclure à Femmes autochtones du Québec dans ce processus. On est un groupe de femmes qui existe depuis 1974 parce que des femmes ont vécu de la discrimination à quelque part. Merci à ces femmes. C'est triste de dire dans un fâcheux événement de discrimination, mais on a su mettre sur pied une organisation de femmes autochtones où est-ce qu'on va dénoncer plein de choses, des inéquités, de la discrimination, le racisme, la violence, les agressions sexuelles, etc. Donc, 45 ans aujourd'hui. Femmes autochtones va avoir en novembre, puis on va fêter ça en grand et on va continuer encore pour plusieurs siècles encore à avoir cette belle organisation de femmes. Jusqu'à maintenant, merci.
Merci, Viviane. Bon, ben, c'est parfait parce qu'on arrive à la partie de la soirée pour les remerciements. Donc, au nom du comité organisateur, j'aimerais remercier notre partenaire, le Centre d'études et de recherche internationale de l'Université de Montréal, et particulièrement à Marie-Joëlle Zahar, Magdalena Debinski, ainsi que Michel Daniel. Merci, on peut les applaudir. J'aimerais également exprimer notre reconnaissance pour la contribution d'Affaires mondiales Canada au grand succès de cette conférence, dont Inès Leminter, Nicole Favreau, ainsi que Laurence Deschamps-Laporte et Dalia Stein du cabinet de la ministre Chrystia Freeland. Merci. Je tiens également à adresser mes plus vifs remerciements à Conditions féminines Canada pour leur soutien. Merci. Il y a beaucoup de remerciements. Please join me in also thanking Ambassador Edita Erda from the European External Action of the European Union. Thank you. Oh là là. Et finalement, j'aimerais remercier très chaleureusement nos panélistes. Madame Teosoa, Madame Razia Sultana, Madame Anielle Franco, l'honorable Karina Gould, et notre animatrice Jennifer Ditchburn et Viviane Michel pour leur contribution à la réflexion de ce soir. Merci vraiment beaucoup. Dans le cadre de la réunion des femmes ministres d'Affaires étrangères, nous avons invité au total 10 défenseurs des droits des femmes qui auront l'occasion ce samedi d'échanger et nous espérons influencer l'agenda de la rencontre des femmes ministres des Affaires étrangères. Pour celles qui sont ici avec nous ce soir, je vous invite à vous lever toutes. Donc, voilà, oui, ben celles qui vont être impliquées. Allez, vous êtes capables. Emilia Franco, la voilà, merci. Bonjour, merci. Ils sont gênés. Bon, avant de vous quitter, j'aimerais souligner la puissance collective de nos voix. Un appel à reconnaître, protéger et soutenir les femmes défenseurs des droits humains et les mouvements des femmes a été appuyé par plus de 160 organismes de la société civile, des organismes qui sont représentés ici ce soir. Car ensemble, nos voix sont plus fortes, notre influence est plus grande pour la défense des droits des femmes et pour la création d'un monde plus juste et égalitaire. Merci beaucoup. C'est vraiment fini maintenant.